Back here in Bloomington for the 74th running of the men's Little 500. I'm Zach Browning. I'm joined alongside by Nick Rhoda. Captain Nick, I know we both grew up in Indiana, and there's just something about hearing back home again that gets you ready for racing.
It gets me incredibly pumped. Jim Cornelison not singing here, but that's okay because Another Round did a phenomenal job. I want to give a shout out to one of my high school classmates, Sir Jonathan Thompson, who was a part of that choir, and he did a fantastic job as well. Kurt Signetti is the Grand Marshal for this race, which is pretty cool. But I have a feeling he did not have to Google the Little 500.
See if we can pick up Signetti on the infield microphone.
He's rocking the full black tracksuit and the gray hat. I mean, there's something about that hat that just exudes aura. I don't really know what it is.
Well, Nick, as we get set for the handful of pace laps here at Bill Armstrong Stadium, let's go ahead and meet the final couple of rows here for the 2025 Little 500. We're on row 5, Macro Cycling, Delta Tau Delta, and Grey Goat featured in row 5. Delta Tau Delta, the team I'm circling here, they did have a late scratch with Jack Sturchy going down due to an injury. So Ben Nordstrom filling in, but still a strong team. They won just a couple of years ago in 2021.
Formerly known as Jet Black, now back as Delta Tau Delta. They've podiumed each of the last 4 years, and 3 wins to their credit. You mentioned their last win being in 2021. That race with no fans in attendance, that must have been a little weird. But Jet Black, or Delts I should say, a team like Cutters, down the order, no strangers to success. I would expect them to find their way up the field as this one goes on.
Row 6 features Alpha Sigma Phi, Bears, and Chi Phi. A handful of teams to watch here. ASIG features Carson Heath. He finished 6th in ITTs, an experienced rider for ASIG. This is a talented row 6, Nick.
All these teams have finished in the top 10 before. Bears and Chi Phi each have second place finishes to their credit. Chi Phi, a team that stood out to me in quals, they were nearly 20 seconds quicker this year compared to last year when they missed the field. So nice to see them back in the running this year.
Row 7 features Novus, Alpha Kappa Lambda, and Americana. For what it's worth, I did see Americana was the first team here earlier today when I walked in. But this is a row 7 here for the 2025 Little 500, where these teams not super experienced, not rich histories, but still a couple of teams to keep an eye on.
Americana, the most experienced team in the row, and this is only their 7th race. It's their 2nd race since 1990. Novus and AKL each running in their 5th races. And, I mean, I guess if you're this far down the order, it's about just staying clean and seeing what you can do as you try to work your way up the field.
Pace lap number 1 is underway here at Bill Armstrong Stadium. Still a little bit away from the green flag being waved as we move on to row 8, which features Pi Kappa Alpha, who is Pike, as well as IUDM Cycling and Godspeed. IUDM and Godspeed, Nick, just 8 combined years of racing experience. Meanwhile, Pike, this is their 45th race. They finished podium just once all the way back in 1993. They haven't finished in the top 18 in the last 3 years. They're looking to get back up the field.
Yeah, Pike, a team that has been here from the start, riding in the inaugural race. Back in 1951, IUDM back in the field after missing last year by 1/4 of a second as well. Godspeed looking to finish inside the top 20 for the first time in their 4th race.
Moving on down the order, we've got 2 more inexperienced teams, I should say, in Tau Epsilon Phi Tep with Alpha Kappa Psi in there as well in row 9, but Phi Psi is in row 9 as well. This is a team that has 7 first-place finishes to their name, Nick, here in row 9 and Phi Psi. The recent success, though, hasn't necessarily been there. They're still looking to reclaim that recent success.
12 top 10 finishes since 2000, but none better than 2nd place, which was all the way back in 2007 when you and I were not old enough to be calling this race yet. But Phi Psi, a very historically significant team, just starting very down the order this year. And you mentioned they really have not had the same success since the turn of the century. They haven't won since 1978.
Row 10 features CSF Cycling, Theta Chi, and Phi Sigma Kappa. These are 3 teams with a little bit more experience. I want to circle CSF Cycling. They've got 4 rookies, 4 first-time racers in the Little 500 this year. This is a row with not a lot of experience as we get further and further down the grid.
Yeah, CSF, the good thing about that is that all these riders should be able to come back next year. as they look to build and continue working their way towards the middle of the pack.
The 11th and final row here for the 2025 Men's Little 500 features Delta Sigma Pi, Beta Theta Pi, and Army Cycling. A couple of teams here with not a lot of racing experience. Beta there in the middle of row 11 has 2 championships to their name, including just not too long ago in 2013 as the second of 3 pace laps comes to a close.
And you can see the anticipation starting to build. Beta Theta Pi in the same position as they started last year, 32nd out of 33. Them and Army kind of stuck at the back each of the last 2 years. We'll see if they can flip the script this time around.
All right, Nick. Last pace lap underway. We've talked about them. BKB, SAE, Cutters, those seem like the 3 favorites for this year's race. Who do you think has the leg up amongst those 3?
Honestly, I'm thinking Cutters. I know they're starting down the order, but I can't count them out. They are the most successful team in this field. I think that if anybody can work their way up the field, it's Cutters.
Of course, the winningest team in Little 500 history is Cutters. They'll start on the outside of row 4, but as the pace lap enters turn 3, now the short chute, and into turn 4, we're getting set for the 74th running of the Men's Little 500. The green flag is out. We're underway. Wiley Close of BKB will lead everybody into turn 1. BKB 1, SAE 2, and 3PH in third down of the back stretch. 3PH with JT Underhill on the bike, the captain in his second race. It's number 4 rider Matthew Noss on the bike for SAE to begin this one. The younger brother, a sophomore, and the younger brother of the infamous Luke Noss, who's one of the most talented riders in this race, as we are 1 lap down here at Bill Armstrong Stadium. The top 3 is as we began. BKB, SAE, and 3PH into turn 1. Now BKB and Wiley Close will relinquish that lead as Matthew Noss and SAE will take over. Heading down the back stretch, there's going to be strategy. Nick, we know that. These teams probably not itching to lead on lap 2.
But look who's already up in the top 3. Cutters.
Didn't take long.
Yeah, and they've already made up 9 positions. Obviously still very early, but Cutters, I'd imagine you'll see them at the front for most of this race.
On the bike for Cutters is Billy Gregory, and his 3rd race finished 37th in ITTs this past season, as we're through 2 laps here at Bill Armstrong Stadium. Now our 3rd different leader, as JT Underhill and 3PH will take over the top spot for the time being down the back stretch. Again, we're not expecting one team to kind of take control early. Expecting a little bit of a cat and mouse game, a back and forth affair throughout the early stages of this race. Of course, if you think to last year, it was SAE that jumped out to a big lead. They wanted to make that move. They wanted to get out early. That move ultimately failed. They ended up getting 6th in last year's race.
And you think, too, about being at the front of this lead pack, because everybody else behind you is going to be able to save a little bit of energy by drafting. It's obviously less effective than you would see, for example, in a super speedway race in, say, NASCAR, for example. But the draft is something to be mindful of, because if you're at the front, you're the one breaking through the wind, and everybody else can kind of save a little bit behind you.
Especially when you consider that this is an abnormally windy day here in Bloomington. As we have our 4th different leader in as many laps. Cutters took the lead for the time being, but heading out of turn 4, it's SAE back on top. Matthew Noss, a rookie rider for SAE. The Spring Series champions wearing the white jerseys, as we'll head into the short chute on the right side of the raceway. Heading into turn 2, back on top is Black Key Bulls. Wiley Close, the first rider on the bike for BKB. Close, his 2nd race, a sophomore last year, or excuse me, a sophomore this year, a freshman last year when he and BKB won the race. This is the 18th race in the history of Black Key Bulls cycling, looking to become the 5th team to repeat as champions in the men's field. A nice little move here, I believe, from Phi Delta Theta on the outside. They want their turn to lead this race. They will do so heading into turn number 2.
I think it's actually Sigma Nu that made a move around the outside. Them and Fidel are wearing very similar jerseys.
Color's not my strong suit, Nick. I'll admit that now.
They're both teal. They look almost identical at first glance. But Signu and I think Fiji also pushing up around the outside as we began the last lap. And it is Sigma Nu to come out and lead as we begin lap 6.
Sigma Nu, their 65th race. They will lead everybody across the start-finish line. 5 laps down here on lap number 6. It's Sigma Nu. 3 first-place finishes to their name, featuring a handful of talented riders, including Jeff Raley and Isaac Baker, both of whom finished top 15 in ITTs this spring. Signu, a 10th place finish last season in the 2024 Little 500. They're looking to get back inside that top 10 for the first time since 2016. Coming around turn 4, back towards the start-finish line. 6 laps underway. It's now SAE back on top, followed closely behind by Signu and Human Wheels up there as well. No big time exchanges yet. Everybody keeping their first riders on the bikes as Sigep will take the lead down that backstretch. Sigep and Cutters both wearing pink. Cutters with a little bit of white on the bottom of their jersey. They'll take the lead heading into turn 3. Again, it's Billy Gregory in his 3rd race, a senior on the bike for Cutters, leading a pack of about 28 teams. A couple of teams, Nick, have fallen off that lead lap pace, but it's Cutters leading everybody back through the start-finish line. We're 7 laps down.
You see these teams just kind of taking turns at the front. We've seen some teams try to make runs around the outside, but of course you've got more distance to cover, so you've got to expend a lot more energy if you're going to try to make up ground around the outside.
And I did want to dive in. It was SAE a year ago when BKB ultimately won. SAE finished in 6th last year, but they made the move early. It was about 20 laps in. SAE kind of made a move to try and lap the field to take that big advantage. The lead, I believe, got up to as high as 20 seconds in that one. SAE led for around 100 laps, north of 100 laps in last year's race, but they couldn't keep it under control. Do you think we see another similar move to that this year where a team tries to go out early, or is it going to be a little bit more calculated this year?
I would think it would be more measured just because you learn from your past mistakes. If you don't, you're foolish, I think. And if anybody's going to try to make a run to lap the field, I think it's going to be much later. Excuse me, purely based on what happened last year with SAE just falling down the order after trying to make that big run. If you do it too early, you just have nothing left at the end.
A slight hiccup on the far side of the track. A couple of riders that have fallen off the pace of the leaders. A little bit of a wreck, about 3 or 4 teams. It looks like Hi-Fi might be one of those that wrecked. IUDM potentially in there as well. They're off the lead pace though, as Cutters continues to lead this field. Through 9 laps here, I wanted to go back to SAE one more time real quick, Nick. It's interesting, they threw out their number 4 rider, Matthew Noss. He's a rookie this year, his first race. He's a sophomore racing for SAE. He finished 5th in ITTs. That is a fast bunch of siblings right there. Luke Noss, of course, the captain for SAE in his 4th race, was the top rider in ITTs for the 2nd straight year this past year.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you go with the rookie at the start for Matthew Noss. Probably just trying to have him calm his nerves down, I think, early in this one might be the play. And he looks very comfortable out there leading this, leading the pack as of right now.
He's leading out front, 10 laps down. Heading down the backstretch is SAE leading the field. Did you see another SAE rider? Their pit is down to our right down this front stretch, right next to BKB actually. I did just see another SAE rider kind of give that universal sign for exchange, maybe a little bit of a hurry up signal. SAE not currently in the lead anymore coming out of turn number 4. It's Sigma Nu. He will gain the top spot on the bike for Signu. Jeff Raley, his 3rd race, a senior, finished 13th in ITTs.
Zach, you see the pace really starting to pick up now. I think these teams may be gearing up for an exchange here in short order. We've seen the lead pack really start to try to pick up the pace.
Looks like we will have an exchange on the back stretch. It looks like CSF will make an exchange. Still, none of the leaders have exchanged yet so far. It doesn't look like anybody will anytime soon. I say that here on the front stretch. We have Alpha Sigma Phi, ASIG making their first exchange of the race as Sig New continues to lead this one as they cross the start-finish line, 12 laps down. And so far, as we kind of predicted, we were talking before we got on air, Nick, a little bit of a cat and mouse game. Nobody really wants to make the first move. They will react to the first move, but they don't want to be the ones to do it themselves.
Yeah, nobody wants to be the one to take the risk. And if everybody, I think if somebody goes, it's a question of who follows. And if those teams follow, do they also get burned if the move happens too early? But I am curious to see how long these teams go before they make that first round of exchanges, because this main pack is still really, really bunched up right now.
And it's something that, again, going back to last year's race, we saw when SAE tried to pull away from the pack about 20 laps in. Nobody really followed them. It was the group of BKB, SIG-EP, those teams. Cutters was in there as well in that secondary pack following the leaders, SAE. SAE got out to that 20-second lead, and no real other team followed. It was kind of a gradual effect of them getting back into the race. And after the race, the teams were talking about it. BKB, SIG-EP, they talked about needing to come together. It had to be a responsibility on the group of that second pack to kind of come back and regain on SAE. It looks like we'll have our first exchange on the front side of the track as 3PH looks like they will make a change. Getting onto the bike is Nathan Imlay in his second race. SAE starting to do a little bit of a burnout potentially. They've taken about a quarters of a backstretch lead over the field.
And you see the rest of the pack pushing now in response.
Still no biker or rider getting set in the second pit down this front stretch. Now, yes, the SAE rider Matthew Noss will back off. He's going to slow things down a little bit. It's SAE Cutters and Fidelt. 1, 2, 3, 15 laps down. Still a large group, Nick. I'd call it 20 teams still in that lead pack.
Yeah, you see a lot of teams in this lead pack, but SAE, you see SIG-EP up there as well. As I think Sigma Nu now pushing around the outside. I think we're going to see some other exchanges from the top teams starting in short order. Sigma Nu, one of those setting up right in front of us. So too is Forest.
Sigma Nu in teal, very similar to Fidelt, so we'll have troubles with them all race long. Forest as well getting ready for an exchange right in front of us as Sigma Nu will undergo an exchange. Hopping off the bike is Jeff Rayleigh. Isaac Baker, who finished 10th in ITTs, will hop on, and that's the point of the burnout, Nick. They're right back into that clump at the top.
That was well managed by Sigma Nu, and now it's a question of if the other teams can follow suit. We saw a couple penalties for illegal exchanges yesterday, and you really don't want to get burned this early in the race. Although I guess if you do pick up a penalty, the earlier the better, because you have more time to serve the penalty and then make up that time.
Burnout here from Forest now as the team who called fifth will look to make an exchange here on the front stretch right past the start-finish line. Hopping onto the bike, a bike-to-bike exchange for Forest is Will Bridgewater in his second race, finished 27th in ITTs. Now on the bike, starting to see a little bit of separation, Nick, amongst the big group as we see some teams trying to burn out. Also a potential here, if you can try and get yourself lost, if you can try and make teams think that you're going to burn out and take a little bit of a lead. There's some strategy involved as we're 17 laps into this race.
Everybody's kept it pretty clean so far. We thought maybe the wind would be a factor. You see the breeze blowing across the track. It's a tailwind as you go into turn 3. But everybody's, by and large, been very well behaved so far in this one.
Fiji out front. Jarno Hicks in his second race, the captain for Fiji on the bike, leading the pack to turn number 2. Sig Nu back up there battling. It's Isaac Baker on the bike, and this is where you start to see maybe some teams who have already exchanged have the advantage. If a team like Sig Nu already through one exchange so far this afternoon, they're already back up to the front of the pack. You look at teams like BKB, SAE, SIG-EP, they still have to do that first exchange.
They're still caught up in the pack, so it's a net negative if you haven't exchanged yet. But those teams who already have, you talk about it happening earlier on. We'll see how that impacts them later on. Maybe those fresh legs that they have right now will be a little more tired.
See the bright yellow jersey of BKB in there. Wiley Close still on the bike. We'll see how long Close stays on that bike, because it is a deep and talented team this year, as it is pretty much every year for Black Key Bulls. Will Wagner, of course, he finished the race last year on the bike, crossed that start-finish line for BKB's third first place finish in the men's little 500. Wagner still yet to hop on the bike. He's the captain, finished third in ITTs. He's one of those top 3 riders. We've mentioned the likes of Luke Noss. He finished first in ITTs. We haven't yet talked about Judah Thompson, who's been one of the fastest riders over the last couple of years, as Fiji will look to make an exchange. Hopping onto the bike is Walker Knight, his second race. He'll look to get back out there with the lead pack. He will do so successfully. A solid burnout in exchange for Fiji.
It was a really good burnout by Fiji, just creating a ton of separation at that front of the pack, plenty of space to make the exchange cleanly, and they're set up back in the top 5.
And Nick, for our listeners at home that might not be too familiar, when we talk about a burnout, what exactly are we talking about?
It's the rider pushing as much as they can, trying to separate themselves from the lead pack. Basically, you're emptying the tank, right? You're using whatever energy you have left for this stint on the bike to give the new rider coming on as much space as they can so that you minimize the time lost in an exchange and that you're able to rejoin the pack. Fiji did a very good job of that, creating a ton of separation and rejoining near the front of the main pack.
Already seeing a handful of different strategies so far today. We've mentioned the likes of 3PH, Signu, Fiji just exchanging as well. Some of the other teams, though, some of the bigger teams, SAE, BKB, SIGEP, Cutters as well, have yet to exchange. So some differing strategies. Of course, there's not one strategy. There's not a one-size-fits-all approach to running the Little 500. But as we're through 21 laps, everybody, that lead pack coming out of turn number 4. Looks like it's Kai Alpha on top. This the 7th race for Kai Alpha. They will lead things across the start-finish line through lap 22. It's Trey Samas, the captain in his second race for Kai Alpha, leading that lead pack. And again, it's just a cat and mouse game, Nick, as Signu looks like they've taken back over that lead down that bag stretch. And again, by this point last year, SAE had already started to make that move, and so far, no semblance of a move from any team so far this afternoon.
And I'm betting there was probably a lot of, hey, don't do what SAE did last year in a lot of these pre-race meetings, because SAE ultimately got burned by trying to break away too early. But everybody's pretty much been very nip and tuck so far this afternoon. Fiji at the front, followed by SAE, and it seems like everybody's doing a good job managing so far.
Fiji up at the front through 24 laps here at the Little 500. And of course, you bring up don't do what SAE did last year. It's kind of a running theme for SAE. They've struggled. They've, for lack of a better way to put it, found unique ways to lose races over the past handful of years. They haven't yet tasted, well, they haven't tasted that first place finish in 62 years. Their one and only championship here at the Little 500 came back in 1963. As it's Cutters now in first to lead things. IUDM a little bit of a burnout out front, but Cutters still leading that lead pack as IUDM will look to make an exchange on the back stretch. Still no exchanges from BKB, Cutters, SAE down in front of us on the front stretch. A lot of the leaders, Nick, we saw a differing strategy in the women's race. A lot of the women's racers electing pits, the top teams electing pits out there in turn 3. The front stretch is where most of the top quality teams have populated this afternoon on the men's side.
It is interesting to see how things have kind of varied because, I mean, functionally, I think turn 3 and turn 1 are the same in terms of where they are. You've got a lot of room on the outside of the track entering the turn, but I guess for simplicity's sake, it's good that the men's teams chose to be in front of us today.
SAE out on front, 26 laps down. Still the rookie Matthew Noss on the bike for SAE. His first race, joining his brother Luke, who was in his 4th race for SAE. Do you think there's any strategy to leaving the rookie out there a little bit longer, maybe not going to be as expected or as leaned upon later in the race?
I think, yeah, you have the rookie with a good chunk of his laps at the beginning, just trying to set the pace for your team, and then you have the more experienced guys ready to go. Their legs are more fresh when the pressure is amped up, say, in the back half of the race, where it's crucial that every lap is so important that you keep it clean.
Should also note, no crashes yet so far. It's been a relatively clean race amongst that lead pack. Of course, we saw in the women's race a crash early on, a crash late on too. Veda involved in that later on crash, but still came back and won. But no crashes yet so far. It's been a clean first 8 of the 2025 Men's Little 500. 26 laps down. We're on lap 27 as SAE still up in that front pack. Same with BKB and Cutters as well. But again, Nick, I'd say 15 to 20 teams still in that front pack. Not a lot of separation yet so far.
Yeah, and we've seen the lap times kind of settle down right around 39, 40 seconds per lap. A lot of teams, aside from the teams that have done their burnouts, really, best lap is still the first lap of the race. So everybody's still managing pretty well as you see some teams trying to break away, maybe making some exchanges away from the pacing, I guess, of the front pack. But by and large, everybody's just settled down at this point. The pace, though, right as I say that, is starting to quicken a little.
Bears cycling a lap down, but kind of leading that lead pack. They're just a little bit out in front of Fiji, who's currently in first place, as all the teams in that lead pack enter and exit turn number 3. 28 laps down. Fiji on top currently. They finished 15th a year ago. Next, they said last year when we talked to them, last year was a little bit of a rebuilding year. They were all rookies last year. This is a team in Fiji that has all second-year riders featured in the Final Four this year. They said last year they pretty much had no clue what they were doing as rookies, and everybody that you talk to around the Little 500 will preach how important race experience is.
And I think that might be, too, why SAE is putting Matthew Noss out at the start of this race, is just so that he doesn't have to wait. I think that's important, say, maybe if they want to go back to him later in the race, but also you have those more experienced guys ready to go down the stretch.
A couple of burnouts underway. Chi Alpha burned out. They're now making an exchange on the back stretch. Same with Human Wheels, which means now about a full turn in front of the pack is Phi Delta Theta as they come in for an exchange on the front stretch. Hopping off the bike is Thomas Rising for Phi Delta. Hopping on the bike is Quinn Peterson, both of which are in their third race. They still have a decent lead as they enter turn 1. Every other team just crossing the start-finish line. So it's Phi Delta Theta with the best lap of the day for any team, 33.28 seconds on lap number 30. They have about a quarter of a backstretch lead on that rest of the pack, but again, nobody else really too concerned, it looks like, from that secondary pack, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, Fidel, I'd say probably about a half a straightaway lead over the field right now. That race best lap was about 7 seconds quicker than the pace, which gives you an idea of how fast that burnout was. But now you see the rest of the pack starting to push the pace.
You see that reaction now from the rest of the pack as Phi Delta will slot back in, still at the front of that lead pack, but back and cementing themselves into that lead pack as Delta Sigma Pi, Delta Sig, up near the front, conducting a burnout. Their pit just on the exit of turn 2. They'll go ahead and pit now. Still a handful of teams setting up for exchanges, including, it looks like, Nick, for the first time today, BKB will exchange, and that prompts the reaction from SAE. I wonder if SAE and BKB going to follow similar strategies this race, as both of them are set up for an exchange. Getting on the bike for each of them. For BKB, it's Paul Lee in his second race. For SAE, it's Brett Varna. So a couple of exchanges there for the top 2 teams in qualifications. BKB and SAE making exchanges just over 30 laps into this race.
And we saw 3 PH exchange at the same time. All 3 of those pits, one behind the other, so it was a very hectic sequence there at the end of the front stretch as all those teams made exchanges at the same time. I think you're going to see more of that throughout the race, just one team reacting to another and trying to mirror them.
And of course, you have to note that the teams get to choose and select their pits based on the order that they qualify in. So obviously BKB on the pole, they got to choose first. SAE chose right next to them second, and then 3PH chose right next to both of them third. So interesting strategy. It was BKB that put their bike out to exchange first. SAE then followed, and then 3PH followed both of them. So some reactionary exchanges down this front stretch here, just about 35 laps into this race. It's Fiji in front as they pull in for an exchange. About a half a straightaway lead for Fiji as they make this bike-to-bike exchange. Cuddy Bersheim getting onto the bike in his second race. A senior finished 42nd in ITTs. His teammates call him Will. as he's back on the bike, and Fiji back into that front pack, which is being led by BKB coming out of turn 2 and down the back stretch. Again, Paul Lee on the bike for Black Key Bulls. Lee, of course, was a former member of 3PH. Didn't race last year, but back on the bike this year, joining BKB, the newest addition for Black Key Bulls. As it's Human Wheels now with a burnout out front. Joining them is Bear. It's a couple of burnouts out front, so they'll look to keep things going. Actually, excuse me, check that. Delts is the one burning out in front, not Human Wheels. Their colors are extraordinarily similar, as Delts will make an exchange leading on the back stretch.
And we've seen Delts kind of hanging out at the front here for the last probably 5 or 10 laps. We mentioned that they've got some experience winning, of course, as Jet Black back in 2021. I wouldn't be surprised to see them kind of along with Cutters hanging out near the front of this field after starting down below the top 10.
None of those Delts riders that were on that winning team for Jet Black in 2021 still racing today for the team. But there are a couple of guys that were in the fraternity at that time. You mentioned a couple of seniors, including Blake Kotolowski and Jonathan Peterson, 2 seniors in their 3rd races. They were freshmen back in 2021 when Delts won the 2021 Little 500. Of course, they did that as Jet Black. It was Fideout in 2022, Cutters in 2023, and of course, Black Key Bulls last year in 2024, leading the pack right alongside Cutters. It's Cutters on the inside who will take the lead coming out of turn 4. On the bike for the winningest team in Little 500 history is the rookie Karam Keskin, who finished 16th in ITTs. Of course, we've talked about the Spring Series champions. SAE won Spring Series, but right behind them in second was Cutters, who finished 1st in Missing Out and 1st in Team Pursuit. And Nick, if you talk to a lot of the teams, if you talk to people associated with the Little 500, they'll say that Team Pursuit is one of the best predictors for success come race day.
Yeah, Team Pursuit, we talked about it a little bit during the pre-race show. It showcases the depth, whereas ITTs are individual time trials. How fast can you go in a full-out sprint as one rider? Team Pursuit, you need everybody. And that's why I was looking at Cutters coming up the field. Cutters won Team Pursuit, which is why even though they qualified 12th, that's not necessarily representative of your race pace. So you look at the Team Pursuit results, and if you're thinking about, okay, who do I want to say is going to finish on the podium, look at Team Pursuit. It gives you a good idea.
Of course, if we look at the Team Pursuit rankings from this past year, Cutters #1, in 2nd SAE, and in 3rd BKB. Those are the 3 teams we highlighted as probably the 3 favorites to win this year's race. Through 38 laps here at Bill Armstrong Stadium in Bloomington, still a clean race, Nick. No big crashes amongst the leaders, as BKB will lead the pack out of turn number 4. Across the start-finish line goes Paul Lee. Closely behind is Cutters and SAE for your top 3. Chi Alpha right there, right behind in their 7th race as an organization. They're in 4th. It's an interesting summer and lead up to this race for Chi Alpha. They had a failed summer of recruiting, as they put it, this past year. Their team was actually in serious jeopardy during Spring Series. Their first ride as a team, as a collective unit, didn't come until October, which is well after most teams kind of get things going, as Forrest will burn out. They'll cross the start-finish line first, completing lap number 40. As getting on the bike for Forrest is Jason Kemp. I think it was funny when I talked to Forrest a couple of weeks ago at Little 500 Media Day. They said, we want a rainy race. We want a sloppy race, muddy, ugly. Not getting that today. It's a beautiful day, maybe a little chilly, maybe a little windy, but still a fantastic day for racing.
Yeah, if we would have run this race yesterday, Forrest may have gotten their wish, but the track is pristine today. Again, we talked about the wind. It's died down a little bit. The American flag out in turn 3 not moving as much. But yeah, I don't think Forrest is going to get their wish. And again, I'm kind of surprised at how clean this race has been so far, because you've got probably about 20, 25 teams in this main peloton, but everybody's kept it very clean through the first 40 laps as Faisai leads to begin lap 43.
Faisai a burnout. They'll exchange on the back stretch just outside the exit of turn number 2. A lot of green jerseys we see in turn 2, probably cheering on Faisai on the far side of the track. They still have the lead after the exchange, followed by Cutters, SAE, and BKB down the back stretch, but it's Phi-Sci into turn 4 in the lead, 41 laps down here on lap 42. The best lap of the race now belongs to Phi-Sci, 32.596, as they'll cross the start-finish line. Just under a half a straightaway lead for Phi-Sci, the leaders currently. 7 first-place finishes for Phi-Sci, but Nick, they haven't won a race since 1978, although they do have 6 straight top 10 finishes. It's been a while since they've really tasted that podium.
It's one thing to finish in the top 10, it's another to finish on the top step of the podium. But for Phi-Sci, getting some time out in front, but still, Black Key Bulls, Cutters, and Siga kind of just hanging out at the front. SAE up there as well. Again, been impressed with how everybody's just kind of being very well behaved so far, taking turns at the front. Looks like they're communicating very well, which is something they always emphasize. The exchanges have been clean. I've only seen a couple penalties served so far in this one. So all in all, a clean first 45 laps.
And that's something I don't think that gets brought up enough, Nick, as Phi-Sci is still out in front, but BKB, Cutters, and SAE right behind them to round out the top 4. The camaraderie of the riders, you know, you see some drama. There's been some drama so far this spring with likes of BKB and SAE. There's been some drama there on social media. But these guys, they all get along. They all race alongside each other. They practice. They often go on trips together. I mean, this past year there was about 10 to 12 teams that went on trips to Naples over winter break. These are guys that are on the bikes. They all get along. They're all friends away from the race. But obviously, once you step out on that track and you start lap number 1 out of 200, that kind of gets brushed aside, but still they're working together to try and finish this race.
Yeah, I think friends on the track, or friends off the track, I should say. I wouldn't say enemies on the track, but definitely competitors. Everybody wants to win. I don't think that's a secret, but when you train year-round with so many of these guys, I think it's sometimes, I guess, it's important to remember that at the end of the day, I mean, everybody trains together, everybody strives for the same goal, and I think there's a level of respect, too, because everybody knows how hard you have to work all year to have a shot at the top step of the podium.
It's SAE, BKB, and a new entrant to the top of the pack, Godspeed, as lap 45 is complete. And it's another thing, yes, Little 500 Weekend is about the men's and the women's races, but it's so much more than that. It's about the festivities around Bloomington, around campus as well, and really building that community around Bloomington. And that's what you see not only on race day, but in the build-up, in qualifications, teams coming out to support, sororities, fraternities, independent teams supporting each other through qualifications, through spring series, and whatnot.
I think the alumni support is incredible, too. I mean, there's so much pride in having ridden for, say, Cutters or Black Key Bulls or Jet Black / Delta Tau Delta. So many teams, so much history in this event, and it's so cool to see the alumni come back year after year as the generations continue to build of riders past, present, and future. I think it's really cool.
Again, only one exchange so far for the top couple of teams. BKB, SAE, and Cutters, just one exchange so far this race. On the bike for BKB is Paul Lee. SAE has Retsk Varna. Cutters is throwing out Jake Zarev. Excuse me, check that. Cutters has Karam Keskin on the bike right now as we're 47 laps into this race. It's Cutters, SAE, BKB, Fiji, Americana, Delta Tau Delta, Chi Alpha, Godspeed, and Phi Delt that round out the top 10. All those teams within a second of each other in that top 10, Nick. And there hasn't really been much thinning out. And I mentioned it earlier, there's like 15 to 20 teams, it's still that.
Yeah, and you see Fiji doing a burnout. I think we're going to have another round of exchanges coming up here soon because we've seen these riders on the bikes for quite a little bit. I think Fiji will be the first team out of this batch of teams at the front to make an exchange.
Matthew Cancilla to take over on the bike. Cancilla in his second race as sophomore finished just inside the top 100 in ITTs. 96th is where he finished. Phi-Sci still up in the front of that pack, as well as SAE, BKB, and ASIG. But we are now 48 laps down, 49 laps, or 49th lap is where we're at. 1/4 of the way roughly through this race. Nick, I think it's time to take our first break of the afternoon. Through 49 laps here at the 2025 Men's Little 500, we've still got a group of about 15 to 20 riders and teams that are in contention. But with that 1/4 of the way through this race, we're going to take our first break. Don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss the final 3/4 of the 2025 Men's Little 500 here on WIUX Sports. Back here in Bloomington, the 74th running of the Men's Little 500 underway. We're 54 laps down here at Bill Armstrong Stadium. I'm Zach Browning, joined alongside by Nick Rodecap. Gavin Worrell holding things down for us back in the studio. Nick, let's quickly reset the field, starting with the top 10. Phi Kappa Psi is in first, Phi Psi leading, followed by Macro Cycling. They did some burnouts, so that's why they're currently in the lead where it stands right now. Delta Sig in third. They'll have to serve a penalty, though, after a penalty on an exchange. SAE, BKB, and Human Wheels go 4, 5, and 6. Cutters in 7. Godspeed in 8. Phi Delt in 9th, with Grey Goat rounding out the top 10. But again, Nick, all those teams within 2 seconds of each other. And we've got around 20 to 25 teams on the lead lap.
Yeah, and as these exchanges continue to cycle through, you'll see the pack spread out a little bit. But the main players still at or near the front of this field, and I think everybody's kept it very clean so far. The pack is still very bunched up. It's still early in this race, still 144 laps to go. But everybody's settled down, everybody's settled into race pace, which is right about 40 seconds per lap. All the exchanges for the top teams have been pretty clean so far, and I think we will start to see maybe Black Key Bulls or SAE maybe think about exchanges here in a little bit. But as of right now, everybody content running the way they are at the front. Phi Psi out in front, SAE in 4th, Black Key Bulls in 6th, SIGEP down in 8th, Cutters in 9th. But yeah, everybody in the main pack still very well behaved so far early in this one.
I'm just trying to take a peek at these leaders. It looks like BKB might be going for an exchange here in a little bit. They had a rider out with the bike. Looks like they'll stall for now. BKB, SAE, Cutters all in the front stretch of this track. Only made one exchange so far as we round the start-finish line once again. It's still Phi Psi on top, Macro Cycling right behind them. And then about 10 seconds back, it's that clump of other teams led by BKB, SAE, and Grey Goat. But a burnout from Phi Psi and Macro have them leading by a decent margin, as it looks like we'll set up for our second exchanges of the day for BKB and SAE at the top. Both teams copying each other's strategy so far. Some hand signals as well. It'll be Will Wagner to get onto the bike for BKB. Right behind them is SAE. Getting on the bike is the Carmel graduate Lucas Lemmy in his 3rd race.
Everybody very clean in that round of exchanges. Both Black Key Bulls and SAE, no trouble.
Of course, we saw those top 2 teams, BKB and SAE exchange. Now Cutters waiting to get another man onto the bike. Waiting is Jake Zerov, the junior who finished 7th in ITTs. We've still not seen Judah Thompson. We've still not seen Luke Noss, 2 of the top racers in this race. As Cutters will go ahead and make that exchange now on the front stretch. Hopping onto the bike, a clean exchange for Cutters is Jake Zerov. But we've still, as I mentioned, Nick, not yet seen really those top 3 riders. Of course, Will Wagner just got onto the bike. He finished 3rd in ITTs. But still no Luke Noss for SAE and still no Judah Thompson for Cutters.
You want to talk about fresh legs? I mean, we're almost 75 laps into this one. We still haven't seen either of those guys. I suspect they will get the bulk of the laps at the back end of this race. Try to keep them as fresh as possible for that final push.
Those are the sprinters for those respective teams, as we are 60 laps down on lap 61 here in the 2025 Men's Little 500. It's still Phi Psi on top. They have about a 7-second advantage over everybody else, over 3PH and Macro Cycling, who are 2nd and 3rd. IUDM currently running 4th. BKB leading that thick pack of around 15 to 20 racers. They're sitting in 5th currently. Again, around 20 teams on that lead lap, as it looks like Fiji's set to make an exchange right in front of us down this front stretch the next time around. Fiji will go ahead and make that exchange. Hopping off the bike is Kinsella. On the bike for the second time today is Yarno Hicks, the captain for Fiji. They're running in second. At least they were prior to that exchange. Now they're back in with that middling pack. It's still Phi-Sci, a 9-second advantage on the pack, trailing them. Phi-Sci looking for their 8th first place finish in Little 500 history. They've got about a half track lead, or half straightaway lead, maybe a little more than that, Nick. They're rounding into the short chute between turn 1 and 2 now, as the rest of the pack behind them just now crosses the start-finish line. Phi-Sci, a team that barely snuck into this race. They qualified 27th. It took them their 3rd attempt to qualify, but it's a team, as many of these teams are, Nick, of former high school athletes, of former high school endurance athletes in Phi-Sci. They finished 9th a year ago. This is their 70th race, one of the more storied teams in the Little 500.
We've got some extended run here at the front as of right now. They've actually, I think, lapped the field. If the timing now, that's not right, I was going to say. But still about 13 seconds ahead of the field. It's a 35-second lap as of right now with the way this pack is going. I don't expect that to last, but still, Phi-Sci getting some run up front. And again, this main pack's still pretty bunched up. I thought maybe they'd be a little more stretched out by now, a little bit more staggered. But as Phi-Sci comes on to start lap number 66, the rest of the pack just entering turn 3. So nearly a half a lap advantage now for Phi-Sci, really pushing it out in front.
It's Hunter Jones on the bike for Phi-Sci. He is their sprinter. He finished 20th in ITTs. And this is his 3rd race. Phi-Sci, that last lap, to put it into perspective, team starting to pick it up a little bit. Phi-Sci ran that last lap at 32.596. SAU is currently in second at 32.702. So the team's starting to kind of pick up that pace behind Phi-Sci. But still, Phi-Sci running about 2 seconds faster on each lap than everybody else right now. As Phi-Sci once again, Hunter Jones crosses the finish line, 38.849 for Hunter Jones and Phi-Sci to complete lap number 65. Here comes the rest of the pack behind him, led by Forrest. They're running second right now. The lap for Forrest running 39.667. So again, just about a second slower than Phi-Sci right now, as we've got Phi-Sci leading by about 15 seconds as the lead continues to grow. And then it's everybody else, again, 20 other teams on that lead lap. But this is the responsibility, this is the role for Hunter Jones. He is the sprinter for Phi-Sci. He was a high school soccer player. He's got that endurance built up, and he's showing it right now.
He's doing a good job maintaining this gap. You think he's going to run out of gas, but still he's kept it just shy of about half a lap as some other teams begin to do burnouts. Pack's starting to, I think, push the pace a little bit more. But Phi-Sci still well out in front of the field, probably about a straightaways advantage right now.
About a 14-second lead for Phi-Sci. That last lap, though, 2 seconds slower than second place Sigma Nu. So those teams in that secondary pack starting to pick it up a little bit. Hunter Jones on the bike for Phi-Sci, coming out of turn 4, will cross the start-finish line, 67 laps down. As that lap there from Jones, 40 seconds, so you can really start to see he's slowing down a little bit. We'll keep an eye on their pit on the back stretch to see when they want to make that exchange and get Jones off the bike.
You see the rest of the pack crossing the start-finish line right around the time that Jones set for Phi-Sci, right around 40, 41 seconds. So the pace may be tapering off a little bit across the board.
It looks like Jones just exchanged on that back straightaway. He looks gassed, kneeling over a bicycle, but Phi-Sci going ahead, making that exchange. They still have a healthy lead as they'll come out of turn number 4 here. On the bike for Phi-Sci now, Albert Schaefer, he's their captain in his 3rd race. The lead now shrunk to around 7.5 seconds for Phi-Sci, just about a couple of turns worth of a lead as Phi-Sci exit turn 2. Everybody else entering that short chute on the front of the track. 68 laps down, Phi-Sci still leading. Think this is sustainable for this team?
I think it's going to be very, very tough. very, very tough for Phi-Side to sustain the advantage that they've got right now. But not impossible, though. Again, there's still 130 laps to go. The question is, how fresh are your legs going to be?
Looks like Schaefer really slowing things down now. A 44-second lap there for Phi-Side as the gap has all but shrunk. SAE, Forest, Signu, Black Key, Bulls, Cutters rounding out the top 6. They have all but caught Phi-Side. So all of Hunter Jones's hard work goes for naught, as we're pretty much back to square one. 69 laps down, everybody pretty much bumped up. We've got about 20 racers, 20 teams on the lead lap. It's been a cat and mouse game. We haven't seen anybody outside of Phi-Side, and of course, they've been caught by that back pack. We haven't really seen anybody jump out to a large advantage. I think the lead got around to around 15 seconds for Phi-Side, but no team in that secondary pack was really worried about them.
And you see 22 teams within 4.5 seconds of the leader. That's everybody on the lead lap. But yeah, Phi-Side just completely sliding down the order. We mentioned we didn't think the gap was sustainable. It took about 3 laps, and the rest of the pack caught back up to them. So really now I think it's business as usual. Delts, Cutters, I think, near the front right now, or at the front, I should say, followed by Black Key Bulls and I think Human Wheels, but it's hard to tell.
Cutters will lead everyone across the start-finish line and into turn number 1 on lap 72. We have 23 teams currently on the lead lap, 22 of those teams in that front clump. Gray Goat about 17 seconds behind the leaders. But still, it's been a hectic race in that pack. Teams trading off, and again, we haven't seen the true top dogs for a couple of our top teams. Will Wagner's currently on the bike. He finished 3rd in ITTs for BKB. He's on the bike now for the reigning champions. As Human Wheels leads everyone across the start-finish line on this go-around. Still a large group, but as I was saying, Nick, still no Luke Noss, still no Judah Thompson, two of the fastest riders we've seen in recent memory in the Little 500 on either side of the race. Still no Judah Thompson, still no Luke Noss. I wonder, you think it's going to be a little bit still until we see them?
Yeah, I think the later we go without seeing either of those guys, I think the better finish we're going to have. Because that means that we're going to have some really fresh legs in the back half of this race. It should be fun. I mean, like I said, the women's race yesterday, the finish was thrilling. I think we are certainly shaping up with how bunched this pack is right now to see something similar, provided the teams can keep their exchanges clean the rest of the way.
It was SAE that led everyone across the start-finish line as everyone now enters turn number 2. Lucas Lemmy on the bike for SAE. This is his 3rd race. He's a junior. He's raced all 3 years for SAE, was recruited to do exactly this, was recruited to SAE for Little 500 purposes. He finished 11th in ITTs this season. And so once again, lead everyone across the start-finish line. It was Cinzano technically that led the race through lap 74, although they'll take a 2-second penalty now, and they're now a little bit of a ways behind that front pack. It's SAE out front, Cutters, Chi Alpha, Delts, BKB up there as well. Still a large group. Is there a specific team, Nick, that this kind of race is advantageous for? Is there any team that stands out that wants to be in this kind of clump situation right now?
I mean, I think the obvious one is Cutters, and I know I've probably beaten that horse to a pulp by now, but Cutters did so well in Team Pursuit that I think if they can just hang around, right, they've proven that they've got the depth to win this one. We mentioned that we'd probably see them at the front for most of this race. That has proven to be true so far, but also I think BKB and SAE, they're the favorites for a reason. And so far, they've kept everything very clean. Their exchanges have been efficient, even though Black Key Bulls and SAE right next to each other on the pit straight. It looks like they might be gearing up for some exchanges here soon, but they've kept everything very neat and tidy so far.
BKB, SAE, Forest, and Cutters all setting up, it looks like, to make exchanges here on the front stretch. It'll be Forest that'll make the exchange first, it looks like. BKB, SAE, and Cutters looks like they'll take it one more lap as Forest will indeed make that exchange. Hopping off the bike is Joseph Grimes. Will Bridgewater back onto it for Forest. They qualified 5th, still running up near that front pack as Delts currently has the lead. And now it looks like we'll get a burnout here from BKB. Will Wagner currently on the bike as they'll set up an exchange. It looks like it'll be Paul Lee getting back onto the bike for BKB. As they burn out, they'll lead everyone across the start-finish line. Will Wagner will hop off the bike for BKB. Check that, it'll be Zach Villarreal, a rookie, onto the bike now for BKB. Villarreal quickly back into that clump at the beginning, or at the front of the race, I should say. Delts up there too, Sigep as well, SAE too. SAE, this is the first time we've seen so far today, Nick. They haven't elected to make the exchange on the same lap as BKB.
We thought maybe they would mirror Black Key Bulls, but you're right, they haven't done it. They're going to do it, I think, a lap later as the burnout comes to a close here for Lucas Lemmy. And it will be
off
SAE
the
making
bike.
that exchange.
SAE making the exchange. It's Matthew Noss, the rookie, the younger brother of Luke Noss, back onto the bike. So just 2 riders used so far for SAE as Lemmy hops off the bike, Matthew Noss back onto the bike. And it's one of those situations where there's not much of a drop-off for a team as deep as SAE. All 4 riders today in the Final 4 for SAE finished in the top 20 in ITTs.
Just unbelievably deep is SAE. And again, that's why I think using the rookie Matthew Noss early on and a heavy dose of him early on, I think is going to bode well for them later on in this race. You've got those more experienced guys coming in with fresh legs in the back half of this race, could bode very well for them.
On the bike for Cutters currently is Billy Gregory. They made an exchange as well in the midst of all that chaos with BKB and SAE making exchanges. Billy Gregory taking over on the bike once again. So here's where we started to see a little bit of differing strategies. BKB has gone to their now 4th different rider on the bike in Zach Villarreal. SAE and Cutters have both just used 2. So you're starting to see a little bit of differing strategies as SAE leads the crowd. Just 0.02 of a second behind them is Delts. BKB, Sigep, and Kai Alpha round out the top 5 as we are 79 laps down. SAE will lead things again. It's Matthew Noss on the bike. He's looking for some help. It looks like he's wanting somebody to go down as we have a crash entering turn 1. A big one. Cutters goes down. Forrest down as well. Sigep down 2. Around 7 or 8 riders involved in the crash entering turn 1. The leaders might look to capitalize now.
And you can see the pack starting to bunch up there, Zach. That was tough because there was a lot of traffic converging on the inside part of the track entering turn 1 as the yellow flag comes out here. And frantically, the bike mechanics shuffle through the infield, but you can see that coming. Everybody bunched up into a tight space entering turn 1, and I really think it was just too many bikers in too small of a space.
It looked
right
like
there.
Bears might have lost their edge. We're getting a replay on the monitor that we have in front of us. It looked like Bears lost their edge, and once one goes down in that group, plenty are going to follow. Cutters did go down in that group as well. So did Sigep, a couple of top teams in this race. So as it stands right now, Delts, SAE, BKB, Chi Alpha, Human Wheels, 3PH, ASIG, IUDM, FiSci, and Macro are your top 10. Cutters around 12 seconds off the lead. They didn't lose too much time. They're currently in 11th. Sigep, 20 seconds behind the leader. They're in 14th. Again, it was Bears Cycling, a rider for Bears, that went down first, entering turn number 1. As the green flag is back out, we're back underway here, out of caution. The first real big crash we've seen so far today, Nick. It took around 80 laps for it to happen. We'll see how it affects. We'll see the next couple of laps. It looks like Cutters. It's Judam potentially on the bike. I can't quite get a number on that pink and white jersey. But if it is Judah Thompson, that's like a statement out there by Cutters. That's a statement to bring out one of the fastest riders in the race to try and catch back up as we finish lap number 83. It's BKB, Delts, and SAE, the top 3. Then a large gap. Cutters trying to make up some time. We see Judah Thompson will cross the start-finish line now. He's in 11th. 14 seconds off the lead. But if there's one guy that can make up that time rather quickly, Nick, it is one of the fastest men in this race, the second place finisher in ITTs this season, Judah Thompson.
We mentioned we hadn't seen him yet. I think now Cutters is saying, okay, we've lost that time. It's your job. Give us all you've got to make it back up. And the good thing for Cutters is we're not even at half race distance yet. There's still a ton of time to make up the ground you've lost if you're Cutters.
You can start to see the race pick up a little bit here. The leaders, SAE, Chi Alpha, and Delts, all sub 37-second laps. Judah Thompson coming in at 36.2. He's made up a second. It's down to 13, his deficit off the leaders. 84 laps down, just had our first crash, our big crash of the day. It was Bears, a member of Bears Cycling that went down, took out a handful of riders, around 5-6 riders with him, including a rider for Cutters and a rider for SIG-App, two of the top teams in this race. Making an exchange now down the front stretch is Sigma Nu. They've been running with the leaders. They were involved in that crash as well, as Nick Hesch, a rookie, will hop on the bike for Sig Nu. Nick, do you think this is an opportunity for those leaders up front to take advantage of a team like Cutters going down on that crash and try and separate from them?
I think, yeah, but you've still got to manage it. I think if you go too much, again, you're going to do what SAE did last year. I know we're at half race distance now almost, but you've still got to make sure that you're measured, that you're controlled, and you don't try to just completely empty the tank. Because Cutters has an uphill battle here to fight, to get back with the field. If you can just maintain that advantage, or at least keep it close to what it was, it's a tall task because Judah Thompson, one of the quickest riders in the field. But if you can just kind of maintain that gap rather than trying to extend it, I think you're in a better spot.
Obviously, one of the biggest kind of storylines following that crash, when you put Judah Thompson on the bike, it was clear that Cutters was trying to save him. Now you can't save him. You have to expend some energy with one of the faster riders in the race to try and catch up to the leaders, who currently go SAE, Chi Alpha, and Delts. We've got a pack of around 7 now near the front, before about a 9-second gap before we get Cutters, Fiji, and Phi-Sci. Those are your top 10 teams right now. It's about an 8-second gap between the top 7, and then Cutters, Fiji, and Phi-Sci, who are 8, 9, and 10 right now. It's SAE leading the way. That front of the pack really kind of survived that crash, as SAE and BKB setting up for another exchange. BKB looks like they'll make it. SAE will not. They'll wait one more lap, as getting onto the bike for BKB is Wiley Close. He started the race for him. He'll get back onto the bike now. SAE electing to wait one more lap to try and make their exchange. It's SAE on top now, in the midst of the burnout, to try and give themselves as much time as possible on this exchange. 3PH right behind SAE in the pits down this front stretch will exchange as well. Coming in for SAE is Matthew Noss. He'll hand off to his brother, and for the first time today, Nick, we see Luke Noss on the bike for SAE, the winner of individual time trials this past spring. He finished first, by the numbers, I guess you would say, the fastest rider in this year's race.
He and Judah Thompson both now on the track for SAE and Cutters respectively. Might see the pace starting to tick up across the board in response. We'll see which teams that benefits. I'd venture to say that it benefits SAE, just because, again, the legs are fresh. We're 10 laps shy of half race distance, and Luke Noss is on the bike for the first time.
Starting to see a little bit of separation now between the front two. Judah Thompson has made up that time. It's SAE, BKB, and Cutters, the top 3 right now. SAE and BKB side by side. Cutters another 3 seconds back. Chi Alpha and A-Sig round out the top 5. But Judah Thompson has done his job. He's gotten his Cutters team back into this race, as it looks like Cutters might be gearing up for a little bit of an exchange here again shortly. Jake Zarov is up off the roller and on his feet, as it will now be BKB to lead this race into lap number 92. BKB, SAE, Cutters, those are your top 3. It's about a 3.5 second lead for the top 2 over Cutters, as we start to pick things up here in the 74th running of the men's Little 500. What's the next step? We've seen the cat and mouse game now, Nick. We've seen kind of the cat and mouse game, as I said. What's next for these teams? You look at the top, you look at BKB, SAE, and Cutters. What's next for these three teams?
I think now it's just kind of managing again. You want to make sure your exchanges are still clean at this point. SAE and BKB almost just drafting off each other, taking turns leading laps at the front. This is where your conditioning comes in. It's okay, we've pushed the pace, but can we keep the gap where it is? We've seen the field really start to stretch out now with just 7 teams, or excuse me, that's not right, but the amount of teams on the lead lap has shrunk a little bit. And you're seeing now, we saw, what, 20 cars within, or 20 bikes within 5 seconds. A handful, maybe 10, 20 laps ago. Now you've got just five bikes within 5.5 seconds of each other. And I think it's going to be, okay, Black Keebles and SAE and Cutters clearly pushing the pace, but can they keep that separation? And early returns say yes as we approach half race distance, and that's where you're going to start to see the teams really start to separate themselves from the teams that you can see contending for a podium and even contending for a win versus fighting for, say, spots 5 to 10.
We've got 7 teams that have begun to separate themselves. We'll update the leaderboard here for that top 7. It's BKB, SAE, Cutters are the top 3, Delts in 4th, A-Sig in 5th, 3PH and Human Wheels in 6th and 7th. Those are the 7 teams within 5 seconds of the leader, BKB. As you mentioned, though, Nick, SAE and Black Key Bulls look like they're content leading this race. They have about a 5.5 second lead on that secondary pack, which is led by Cutters, and they're just trading laps. They're trading which laps they lead. They're drafting off of each other. And we talked about it earlier, the importance of drafting. Again, maybe not as important for a stock car race like you might see in NASCAR or something like that, but still, it's a windy-ish day here in Bloomington. And you'll take all the energy conservation you can get at this point as they'll go side by side into turn number 1, BKB and SAE.
And I think that's important that they're willing to work together. Obviously, these are 2 teams that are very much in the running to win this race. But right now they understand it's not about separating from each other, because that's only going to hurt both of you in the long run if you're having to break through that air. But if you're trading off which laps you lead, then each of you is able to save your energy and benefit your team in the long run.
Again, Luke Noss on the bike for SAE, Wiley Close on the bike for Black Key Bulls. They'll cross the start-finish line again. It's side by side now. SAE's turn to take the lead into turn number 1, 96 laps down, as Cutters will set up for an exchange. They'll make it now. Judah Thompson off the bike. Getting onto it for Cutters is Jake Zarov. So Judah Thompson, one of the fastest racers we've seen over the past couple of years, off the bike, but had to use some energy to try and get them back into this race after going down with that crash. So we'll see how that affects Cutters in a potential sprint for Thompson later on in this race. But as for now, Jake Zarov, who not too shabby himself, finished 7th in ITTs, will hop onto the bike. And it's interesting, when we were talking to them earlier a few weeks ago, Nick, Cutters told us that we control this race. That's something that they said. They said, we control this race. There's a target on their backs because of the name Cutters. They have 15 first-place finishes here at the Little 500, looking to get 16 this year. But they came in thinking, believing that they controlled this race. It doesn't necessarily feel like that anymore because of what they had to deal with after that crash.
Yeah, getting caught up in that crash, being stuck in the back half of the lead pack really kind of did not do them any favors because we saw, again, the teams at the very front were able to escape. Cutters was not one of those. And when you're caught up in the middle of that pack like that, there's really nothing you can do. You're kind of powerless. You don't have enough time to react, and even if you do, you don't have anywhere to go. So now Cutters definitely on the back foot a little bit. I'd say probably about a 3/4 of a straightaway deficit is what Cutters has to make up here. 13 seconds behind the leaders. Very, very tough with the way that BKB and SAE are working together. Still a lot of time, though. And who knows, maybe BKB and SAE, maybe there's some miscommunication at some point. But as of right now, they've been very well behaved.
Again, Wiley Close on the bike for BKB. He'll take the lead turning into turn number 1. He's followed closely by SAE's Luke Noss, who's still on the bike for them. 2 teams that qualified 1 and 2 have around a 13-second advantage over that second pack, led by Delts. Cutters in there as well. Human Wheels, ASIG, and 3PH in there as well. We're on lap number 100 here of the 2025 Men's Little 500. Forrest makes an exchange right in front of us. Hopping onto the bike is Jason Kemp, but here come the leaders. BKB and SAE are the top two through 100 laps here at the 2025 Men's Little 500. We'll be set for our second break of the afternoon. We'll go ahead and take that one now. Again, BKB, SAE are your top two. About 13 and a half seconds back is Cutters, as well as a group of about 3 or 4 other teams. We should be in store for a fantastic finish halfway through the 74th running of the Men's Little 500. You're listening to 99.1 WIUX. Back here in Bloomington, Zach Browning with you alongside Nick Rodecap for the 74th running of the Men's Little 500. Back from our second break, have had a couple of exchanges since last time we were on air. SAE, BKB, and Cutters still your top three. All three teams have since exchanged. They exchanged in the middle of our break. Billy Gregory is on the bike for Cutters. They exchanged at lap 103. And for BKB and SAE, they both exchanged at the same time on lap 105. For BKB, it's Paul Lee. For SAE, it's Rhett Varna, as they still have that advantage. BKB and SAE still working together, as we've kind of got two separate lead packs here now, Nick. We've got BKB and SAE, who have over a half a track advantage. It's around a 20-second lead for BKB and SAE. Then you've got a group of 3, Cutters, Delts, and 3PH. Round out your top 5 as SAE and BKB cross the start-finish line. Again, that last lap for both of them was 36 seconds or so, give or take about 100th of a second for SAE and BKB. They're running at a slightly faster pace than that second group, who's running around a 37-38 second pace. Is this the moment, Nick, you think, where SAE, BKB, they maybe take their shots and say, hey, let's make this a 2-horse race, and then may the best man win, may the best team win down the stretch between us two? I
think we've kind of already seen that. I think they're kind of gambling with the advantage that they built over the rest of this field right now. 18 seconds, that's about half a lap if you're both SAE and Black Key Bulls as we begin lap 113. Here, and it looks like they're content to keep pushing this pace, about 38 seconds per lap. Now Delts and Cutters about a second quicker on that last lap, but still a half a lap advantage for the front two. I think they're going to try to stretch this, or keep it at least at half a lap, and say, okay, it's us, it's SAE versus BKB for the win. Everybody else will fight for third. I don't know if that's the plan, but it certainly appears that way right now with the way they're pushing ahead of the field.
Of course, SAE, BKB working together. They continue to trade off who leads each lap and who gets a draft off the other each lap. They continue to pretty much mirror each other in exchanges as well. BKB, that last exchange came on lap 105, and SAE mirrored them. They both came in side by side. They both left side by side, as Cutters will go ahead and make an exchange. Another one here for Cutters. This puts Karen Keskin back on the bike. Still, we've only seen Judah Thompson once. It was for about a 10 to 15 lap segment in which Thompson got Cutters back into this race after they went down on a crash. As the pace is slowed down up front for SAE and BKB. That last lap for each of those two teams, 38 seconds. It's Delts, 3PH, and Cutters not too far behind them, about half of a lap behind them, as Delts and 3PH will cross 16 seconds after SAE and BKB did. Now 4 seconds later is Cutters after that exchange. They're back into that group of 3, that secondary group of 3 as well. It really looks like, Nick, we have a group of 2 at the front with Black Key Bulls and SAE, then a group of 3 of Delts, 3PH, and Cutters, and then everybody else kind of following in behind them.
Yeah, and I thought with the way that pack was really bunched up in, say, the first 50 laps, that was how this race was going to shake out, but that has not been the case at all. Black Key Bulls and SAE really, really pushing it. But again, it looks like they're content to run it this way, and as long as they keep it clean, we may just have a 2-horse race here for the final 85 laps.
course, looking at these two teams, they qualified first and second respectively. BKB qualified in first, SAE qualified in second. BKB, of course, won last year's race. SAE came in sixth after an early move for them did not pan out. Both of these two teams have deep Final Fours. Black Key Bulls, 3 riders inside the top 20 in ITTs. SAE, 4 riders inside the top 20 in ITTs. SAE, of course, was this year's Spring Series champions. Black Key Bulls didn't light things up during Spring Series. They got 3rd in ITTs, tied for 6th and missing out, and got 3rd in Team Pursuit. Of course, they did it when it mattered most, though, in qualifications, getting that pole spot. Two teams that continue to work together as we are now 116 laps down. It's BKB at the front right now.
And I just saw
they'll change places.
I just saw BKB hold up a 2, saying that maybe they're thinking about exchanging in 2 laps. Not sure what that means, but there are some wheels turning in those pits entering turn 1 between both SAE and Black Key Bulls.
Of course, that secondary pack starting to thin out a little bit as well. 3PH falling a little bit behind as they exchange to put JT Hunderill back on the bike. So 14 seconds back of the leaders is Delts. Cutters around 18 seconds back of that lead pack. 3PH still looking to get back up there as well. 3PH actually, I believe, is a lap down now after a little bit of a mishap on that mistake. We have 6 teams on the lead lap currently. BKB, SAE, Delts, Cutters, Phi Delt, and Macro Cycling all on that lead lap. Lap number 118. Nobody has pulled away from the pack themselves as Delts is now catching back up to BKB and SAE. Delts starting to pick things up a little bit. I believe the live tracker in front of us might be malfunctioning a little bit because it says Delts is on top. That is certainly not the case.
That is negative, my friend. They are certainly not a lap ahead of the field. We know that.
It is BKB and SAE leading the race. Cutters exchanging once again. They'll put Judah Thompson back on that bike. Again, second in ITTs for Judah Thompson as Billy Gregory comes in. This starts to beckon the question now, Nick, of how long can Judah Thompson sprint for, as we've got 2 more exchanges. The top 2 teams in this race, SAE and BKB, will exchange as well. It's Will Wagner and Lucas Limmy, I believe, on the bikes for each of them respectively. Will Wagner for BKB and Lucas Limmy back on the bike for SAE. They still hold that lead, about a half-track lead over Cutters, who's currently running in 3rd, with Judah Thompson, one of, if not the fastest riders in this race, on the bike.
You see they're both really pushing those fresh legs for BKB and SAE.
So they'll cross the start-finish line. It's Limmy out in front of Wagner. SAE leading over BKB as we're 120 laps down here at the 2025 Men's Little 500. And again, I was going to ask you the question, Nick. Of course, we saw Judah Thompson not too long ago, probably a little bit earlier than Cutters would have wanted. How long can he sprint for is really the real question here for Cutters.
Yeah, and especially because he had to ride a little bit off schedule. I think they wanted to save him for later, but because of the crash, he had to come in early and make up all that ground. That will probably throw a wrench into their strategy later on into this race. But we saw SAE stagger their exchange a little bit last time. This time, though, they exchanged at the exact same time as BKB, and really it is starting to sort of just feel like a 2-team race for the top spot here, Zach.
Of course, when we talk about Judah Thompson and we talk about Cutters, he's on the bike now as he crosses the start-finish line. He's still running in 3rd. He and Cutters still running in 3rd. When we talk about Judah Thompson, this is a guy that in high school rode with BKB. He rode with the Black Key Bulls cyclists as a high schooler. Thompson, a Bloomington native, of course, was on the bike for Cutters when they won in 2023. He's been a dominant force in this race ever since he stepped onto campus here at IU. Of course, in 2023, he was a rookie that year when he was on the bike and sprinting to the finish for Cutters in that one. He's on the bike now for Cutters, crossing the start-finish line once again. 122 laps down in this race. SAE and BKB starting to get close to potentially lapping those in front of them. The pace has continued to pick up for Will Wagner and Lucas Lemmy. It's BKB over SAE right now.
Yeah, ever since they made that exchange, BKB and SAE have really ratcheted up the tempo.
BKB, of course, looking for back-to-back championships, looking to win for a second consecutive year. Of course, we had a repeat champion, a back-to-back champion, and yesterday's women's race with Kappa Alpha Theta coming out on top. Nick, we haven't had back-to-back champions in both the men's race and the women's race since 2010 and 2011. Of course, on the men's side, that was the final two races or final two wins for Cutters as part of the 5-peat from 2006 to 2011, and Teeter went back-to-back in 2010 and 2011 on the women's side. That's the only time that we've had back-to-back champions on both the men's and the women's side in the same years. BKB and Kappa Alpha Theta looking to do that here in 2024 and 2025. It's BKB and SAE still out front.
And everybody in this single file line, it's about an 8-bike line that Black Key Bulls and SAE are in the front of right now, pushing the pace as they swap the lead going into turn one. SAE will take the top spot. But we thought maybe Cutters would be able to make up more ground. They really haven't. We talked about it earlier, maintaining that gap at the front if you're the two teams leading the field, SAE and Black Key Bulls, and so far they have been able to do that. But still, with about 75 laps to go in this race, still a very long way. It's a question of can SAE and SAE and Black Key Bulls manage that gap and keep it out front.
To quickly put into perspective the gap we've seen grow, SAE, BKB cross the start-finish line now. They'll head into turn number one. Just now entering turn 3 on the back straightaway is Cutters in that secondary pack, along with 3PH and Delts in there as well. So it's about a half-track advantage for that top group of two, SAE and BKB, over the secondary pack of Cutters, Delts, Chi Alpha, 3PH in there as well. This is the team in Black Key Bulls that is looking to repeat. Will Wagner on the bike for them. Lucas Lemmy on the bike for SAE. The Spring Series champions in white for SAE. In yellow, representing the winners of qualifications, wearing that number 1 on his jersey, is Will Wagner for BKB. They still have that significant advantage over the rest of the pack. This is a team in Black Key Bulls that said they love the pressure. When we talked to them, Nick, they said they love the pressure of being the team on everybody's radar as that second pack now comes around the start-finish line. It's around a 20-second advantage officially for BKB and SAE. But when we were talking to them on Little 500 Media Day, Black Key Bulls said they enjoy the pressure. They called it a target on their back. And it was, I believe, Wiley Close that spoke up and said, there's a reason that we have a target on our back. There's a reason that there's pressure, and that reason is because of how good we are. They see it as more of a sign of respect as opposed to anything, and we're seeing why they're respected by so many of their peers today, them and SAE, out to a large lead here about 128 laps in.
I was thinking, yeah, it's more of a sign of respect and a sign of recognition of just how good your team is. If everybody says, oh, that's the team to beat, I think you take that and you run with it and you think, okay, yeah, we belong at the front. And certainly that has proven to be the case here this afternoon for both Black Key Bulls and SAE. But yeah, they don't boo nobodies. Nobody puts a target on the back of somebody who isn't a threat to win. And we've certainly seen that as the case for Black Key Bulls and SAE. And now, I mean, really it's just about keeping it clean, making sure that you don't incur any penalties during the exchange process for both of these teams. And assuming that is the case, assuming they keep it clean, we've only had the one big crash entering turn 1, and really that big pack that we had is gone. Everybody's really kind of stretched out as Fiji makes an exchange in front of us here. But Black Key Bulls, SAE really pushing the pace once again as we begin lap 132.
They've begun almost to draft off of Sig Ep as well. Sig Ep a lap down, but up there in that racing pack with BKB and SAE as well. Of course, this isn't an uber experienced BKB team either. You look at their roster, look at the Final Four for them: Will Wagner, Wiley Close, Paul Lee. This is all just their second race. Wagner, a senior; Wiley Close, a sophomore; Paul Lee, a senior as well. And of course, this is just Lee's first race with BKB. He raced a couple of years ago with 3PH. Zach Villarreal, a rookie as well for BKB. Not quite the experience that SAE has when you look at the team running in second currently. SAE with Luke Noss. This is his fourth race. Lucas Lemmy, Rhett Skvarna in their third races with Matthew Noss, a rookie as well. So you think, Nick, down the stretch, potentially, it's tough to call because down the stretch you look at the experience difference, and SAE has the advantage in the experience department, but BKB's done something that SAE hasn't done in 62 years, and that's win a Little 500.
Yeah, and BKB really proving content as on the bike right now. I think it's Wagner, very animated, pointing to the inside of the track as SAE makes that pass on the inside to take the lead in the short shoot between turns 1 and 2.
Again, they're almost running this race as one team, just drafting off of each other.
Yeah, and you see the single file line start to stack up behind them, now approaching nearly 9 or 10 different teams kind of in that single file. If somebody gets out of shape, that could go sideways very quickly. But everybody seems content to behave for now, as we may see some exchanges here soon. Both SAE and Black Key Bulls setting up for exchanges here in what looks like the next couple of laps.
Looks like they'll go around one more time, getting the wave around. It's Zach Villarreal getting ready to get on the bike. It looks like for BKB, Matthew Noss getting ready to get onto the bike for SAE. Still no exchange for cutters as Judah Thompson continues to lead that secondary pack, around 16 seconds behind the leaders. It's SAE, BKB, they're the top two. Cutters, Delts, and Forrest are that second group of three. They're your top five as a whole. 133 laps in, we're on lap 134. No sign of an exchange for cutters, but looking down that front stretch, SAE, BKB, they'll make their exchanges now. They're clean, almost synchronized in their exchanges down that front stretch. They'll enter turn number 1. It's Zach Villarreal for BKB. It's Matthew Noss for SAE. See if that exchange opens the door a little bit for that second group. As you see Forrest, Cutters, 3PH Delts, they're that second group, making up a little bit of ground, but of course they still haven't exchanged as recently as BKB and SAE just did.
And it's a full straightaway still, the advantage between SAE and Black Key Bulls. This is almost insurmountable for that back pack. I say back, it's the fight for third, really. Delts, Cutters, and Forrest. But, man, there's still, those 5 teams still in contention. I think Delts, Cutters, and Forrest, that's going to be the fight you see ultimately for third place in this race. But BKB and SAE still nearly half a lap ahead of the field even after those exchanges.
But that pace has slowed down, Nick. If we're looking at our live race tracker that we have up in front of us, SAE, BKB, 42 seconds on that last lap, just 11 seconds now back. Cutters, Delts, and Forrest, that was a 37-second last lap for them. So they picked up the pace, but BKB, SAE still out in front. It's Zach Villarreal and Black Key Bulls currently leading over SAE and Matthew Noss, but they've flip-flopped back and forth all race long. Still no sight of an exchange for that secondary pack of Forrest, Cutters, and Delts. 3PH running with them as well, but they're a lap back. So it's that secondary 3. The top 5 as it stands right now, Nick. Black Key Bulls, SAE, they're in a group of their own, around 10-15 seconds ahead of a secondary group of 3 in Forrest, Cutters, and Delts, competing as it stands right now for that third and final spot on the podium.
We could almost have 2 separate good finishes here, assuming those groups stay as they are. Obviously, the 2-way fight for the win, and then a 3-way fight for the final podium spot could be interesting, as you see Cutters and Delts starting to push with Kai Alpha in there with 3PH as well, but I think those 2 are a lap down.
And Nick, I think that's kind of the elephant in the room right now. You've got 2 teams working together, SAE, BKB up at the top of this field, but they both can't win.
Right.
At some point, somebody's going to have to make the move to pass the other. Do you think that comes on maybe a lap 180. Maybe doesn't happen on a lap 190. Well, that 199, do we see a sprint finish like we saw yesterday in the women's race?
I think you want to be in second when the final lap starts. I think that's generally how these things shake out. You want to be the one drafting. You want to be the one putting the pressure on the rider in front of you when that final lap begins. You don't want to be the one out front because then you're constantly looking over your shoulder. You're trying to defend. You're trying to manage. You're trying to figure out what exactly the rider behind you is going to do. But if you're behind, like nip and tuck, nose to tail, drafting when the final lap starts, when lap 200 begins, I think you're in a better position to push and pass for the win. I think you want to wait and be the one behind, as long as you're drafting right behind, whether it's SAE or Black Eagles. You want to be the one trailing when lap 200 begins.
It's interesting too, because while that is typically the train of thought for most auto racing, bike racing, whatever it is, of course we saw the opposite train of thought win out yesterday during the women's race. It was Bailey Capella and Theta that led entering lap 200, and she held off Libby Lewis and Dorothy Curran-Munoz, two of the top two ITT finishers in the women's race last year.
And that was what was incredible, was that on paper, Lewis and Curran-Munoz were faster, but Capella out-sprinted both of them in a dead heat to win it for Theta. That was incredible.
We could be set up for a similarly thrilling finish today. BKB and SAE just finished lap 140. 60 laps to go. Cutters, Delts, and Forrest around 12 seconds back of the top two teams. Of course, one of the biggest things that every team talks about, Nick, when they're running these races is not only just how fit you are, how fresh your legs are come the end of the race. It's not just about that, but it's about teamwork. It's about camaraderie. It's about how close you are with your teammates. And we've got two teams up at the front of the pack right now that are two of the closer teams in this race. BKB, that's what they told us. They said, quote, how well we know each other and care for each other matters far more than our legs on race day. That's a quote from BKB earlier this week during Little 500 Media Day. They're close. They hang out together, not just on the bikes, but off the bikes as well, watching film, everything like that. But then when you look at SAE, they're close as well. This is the fourth race for Luke Knox, the third for Lucas Lemmy and Rhett Skvarna. You've got a pair of brothers on SAE as well, Luke Knox and Matthew Knox. They played high school basketball together at Westfield. So it's one of those situations. It's a battle of two titans. BKB, obviously the reigning champions, qualified first. Plenty of experience together. They pretty much have the same team running it back this year that won last year's race. You look at SAE, they're literally family at SAE, and they qualified second. So we should be in store for a fantastic finish. Lap 143 in the books. It's SAE across the finish line first, BKB right behind them. And then you look back, it's a lengthy advantage, but shortening. Not as wide as it once was, down to 10.5 seconds to Cutters and Delts. Forrest falling a little bit behind off of those in the second pack, and Cutters and Delts. So we've got a 4-horse race now, I would call it, Nick. You've got 4 teams that are all within 10 seconds of each other. SAE and BKB on top, Cutters and Delts around 10 seconds behind them.
And as you see Cutters setting up for an exchange, I was just going to say, during this stint, Cutters has taken about 6 seconds out of that deficit that they were faced with, the gap to the top two, but that deficit is going to expand once again as Cutters goes for a burnout. Delts following and going to be making that exchange here coming up. So I think those Cutters and Delts will be the two ultimately fighting for third. I thought maybe Cutters would make a push for the top spot, but I think the deficit is just too much at this point in the race with the way SAE and Black Bulls have pushed this pace after that crash.
Of course, it's interesting. It's been Judah Thompson on the bike for Cutters.
And SAE making an exchange here as well.
BKB, SAE, they'll make an exchange as well. Cutters will as well. Getting on the bike is Luke Noss for SAE. Wiley Close on the bike for BKB, and we could potentially look to get a move here from Luke Noss. He's taken about a 3-second advantage over Wiley Close, who's quickly shortening that gap. Judah Thompson off the bike for Cutters as well. Delts made a move as well. So all 4 teams that are really competing for that top spot, competing for the podium, all deciding to go with an exchange on lap 145. BKB Wiley Close has caught up to Luke Noss. Luke Noss, he can set a high pace. One of the fastest riders in this race. He's finished first at ITTs each of the last 2 years. He's out in front of BKB's Wiley Close right now, who's no slouch on the bike himself. He finished 12th in ITTs this season. A senior in Noss for SAE, a sophomore in Close for BKB, and of course Cutters and Delt's not too far behind. It'll be SAE, it'll be Luke Noss to lead him across the start-finish line here, 146 laps down, as the pace has really started to pick up. 34.5 seconds on that last lap for SAE and BKB. Delt's and Cutters now crossing 14 seconds behind, 37-second laps for Delt's and Cutters respectively.
Yeah, and you see really, I mean, ever since the exchange, the most recent exchanges, SAE and Black Key Bulls rapid out in front, 34.5 seconds each on that last lap compared to 37.1s for Delt's and Cutters. BKB and SAE now in a tandem kind of breaking away from the rest of this field in terms of track position. I mean, you've got teams around them on the track, but they're all laps down at this point. But SAE and Black Key Bulls really pushing the pace as we enter the final 50 laps here.
Lap 148 in the books. It's still BKB leading SAE. Those two out front, around 15 seconds back, is Delt's and Cutters. On the bikes for each of those 2 teams, it's Wiley Close for BKB. It's Luke Noss for SAE. They've just entered turn number 1, 149 laps down. For the top 2 teams that qualified first and second, they're running first and second right now. Now comes the secondary pack of Cutters and Delt's. On the bike for Cutters is Jake Zarov. For Delt's, they have Ben Nordstrom, who again was a late addition for Jack Sturchy, who was a crushing loss for Delt's in this race. He dislocated his knee a few weeks ago, was a late scratch. He finished 9th in ITTs, just a sophomore. But he's been replaced here in the final 4 by Ben Nordstrom, a junior in a second race who finished 45th in ITTs. Delt's, they told us that it was simply a matter of replacing great with great. But obviously Sturchy, a big loss. Delt's didn't have the strongest spring series. They said they didn't really care about it. They said that they are racing for April 26th. That is today. They're racing for the Little 500. They're not racing for missing out Team Pursuit, ITTs, any of that. We're just under 50 laps to go. We're at lap number 151. It's BKB over SAE by about 0.02 of a second. They continue to draft off each other. But about 16, 17 seconds back is Cutters and Delt's. That's your top 4. Those are the 4 competing for the 3 spots on the podium. And with that, we're going to take a quick break. Our final one of the afternoon, 151 laps down. We've got 49 to go to crown a champion for the 74th running of the men's Little 500 here on 99.1 WIUX. 40 laps to go here at the 2025 Men's Little 500. Zach Bounding with you, Nick Rodecap as well. We are through 160 here in the 74th running of the Men's Little 500. It's still BKB and SAE out on top of Delt's and Cutters by about 20 seconds. Nick, this is a race where it looks like we've got 2 sets of 2. BKB, SAE, they're fighting it out for first. Delt's and Cutters, they're around 20 seconds back, fighting it out for 3rd and 4th respectively. How have BKB and SAE not only been able to get out to this lead, but maintain this lead over the last 50, 60 laps?
Well, they took advantage of the incident that took place in turn 1. There was a crash down there that Cutters got caught up in. I think Delt's got caught up in it as well. And really, they've just been pushing and pushing and pushing, and Cutters and Delt's have been kind of stuck because Cutters had to use Judah Thompson, I think, earlier than they were expecting, their sprinter, just to try to make up that deficit or try to make up the gap as both BKB and SAE come in for exchanges. No, Black Key Bulls faked it. And so, too, I think, did SAE, recognizing the bluff. So now Black Key Bulls pulling away a little bit, and Zach, we're seeing some of that strategy come in, but Black Key Bulls, they've been pushing, and so have SAE. They've been working together, but right there, the fake exchange, I think, caught SAE a little bit off guard. Now Black Key Bulls having about a, shoot, I'd call it 10 to 15 bike length advantage over SAE out front, really pushing now.
Now's where you see the sprint. It's Wiley close on the bike for BKB. Trailing him in some lap traffic was Luke Noss. He's going to make that exchange now. SAE will exchange to put Rhett Skvarna on the bike, but all of a sudden, Nick, BKB has separated themselves at the front of this race.
That was an incredible bluff by Black Key Bulls, and it worked well too because SAE got caught up in that lap traffic after having slowed down, thinking they were going to make the exchange. So now BKB has a full 2-turn advantage. As we come to the start-finish line, we'll see exactly how long it is, but that played perfectly into the hands of Black Key Bulls. And you wonder if maybe that's why they picked the pit stall right at the end of the front stretch, because you have the advantage there. You can do that. You can wait as long as possible, and that's exactly what they did, and they executed it to perfection. Now, Black Key Bulls 7.2 seconds ahead of SAE.
I asked you before the break, Nick, when that separation was going to come, because obviously both of these two teams cannot win. They've been going back and forth for some time, SAE and BKB, and it was BKB that threw the first punch. We'll see if SAE can answer. But as it stands right now, it is Wiley close, crossing the start-finish line. He's through 164. Right behind him, 5 seconds behind him. For SAE is Rhett Skvarna, 2 top 20 finishers and ITTs. But it is something we should note, Nick, SAE currently with the fresher rider on the bike.
Yeah, and that's where the downside of that fake exchange comes in for Black Key Bulls is, yes, you have the advantage, you have the time advantage, you have the track position, but you do not have the stamina advantage. Now, Black Key Bulls has gone a really long time without an exchange, and it's a question of how much longer they're going to want to go. You're going to be monitoring that gap because it was 7 seconds last lap. This time, coming to the start-finish line, we'll see exactly how long it is, 4.3. So SAE has taken about 3 seconds out of that gap. And now if you're Black Key Bulls, as they set up for this exchange, you've got to make this exchange sooner rather than later, because you're starting to lose that advantage that you gained by faking the exchange a few laps ago.
It'll be Will Wagner to get on the bike when BKB does elect to do this exchange. As it stands right now, Cutters will make an exchange. Judah Thompson getting back onto the bike, the fastest, or one of the fastest riders in this race. Delts made an exchange as well. Jack Lloyd on the bike for Delts, as here comes Wiley close. He'll get off the bike. BKB will make that exchange, as onto it is Will Wagner and SAE. They've caught up. Rhett Skvarna back into that pack. We'll see if Wagner can maybe pull away. He was third in ITTs. You talk a lot, you hear a lot about Luke Noss and Judah Thompson, 2 of the faster riders in this race, but Will Wagner right up there with them, and he is trying his best to sprint away from Rhett Skvarna of SAE.
And you see now Skvarna kind of struggling to keep up. Wagner is really pushing. Coming out of turn 4 as we begin lap number 169. The laps are ticking down quickly, and BKB so far maintaining about a, we'll call it 2.5 second advantage over SAE. The strategy starting to come into play here. So far, Black Key Bulls has executed it very well.
The battle for 3rd and 4th still close as well, but those 2 teams at the top have definitely separated themselves. Cutters rolling out Judah Thompson, Delts rolling out Jack Lloyd, but they are a hefty 30 seconds behind the top 2 teams, so it is truly a 2-horse race as Will Wagner continues to build upon that lead over Rhett Skvarna. It's now up to 5 seconds. That was a 34.4 second lap for BKB compared to SAE's 36.9 second lap.
He took out 2.5 seconds just on that lap. Really, really impressive stuff from Will Wagner here for Black Key Bulls. Really starting to push the pace as we approach the final 30 laps of this one. BKB has nearly put a full lap on everyone besides SAE in second place, as SAE will set up for an exchange, perhaps seeing that they're losing a lot of time very quickly.
Looking to get another sprinter onto that bike, the younger brother of Luke Noss, Matthew Noss, a rookie. Will get back onto the bike now as in comes Skvarna. It'll be Matthew Noss back onto the bike, a rookie trying to chase down Will Wagner, who of course crossed the start-finish line and won it for BKB a year ago.
And remember, Matthew Noss rode a good chunk of the laps in the early stages of this race. You've got to wonder how much energy he has left at this point.
You got to think for SAE, it's all about just getting Luke Noss into a range where he feels comfortable sprinting to the finish line. BKB has their fastest rider out there, and Will Wagner. I wonder how long he'll be out there for. It hasn't been like BKB to exchange quickly, but as it stands right now, that lead is up to 15 seconds for BKB, a 35-second lap for Will Wagner, one of the fastest riders in this race. He was on the bike when BKB won it a year ago. Black Key Bulls trying to go back-to-back here in 2024 and 2025. We see in front of us, Wagner crosses the start-finish line. A little bit of a slower pace on that one. The energy starting to deplete a little bit, 37.5 seconds on that last lap. But the damage, you got to think, has been done as Matthew Noss will cross the start-finish line 15 seconds back of the leader.
Black Key Bulls lapped everybody up to third place, including Cutters. The only team on the lead lap besides BKB is SAE, and they're 15 seconds back. But I think you'll see that gap start to shrink a little bit as Wagner starts to run out of gas. So it's a question of Black Key Bulls now. How long do you go before you make the exchange? And we'll see how much the gap has shrunk as SAE comes back to the line here to complete lap 173.
Because, of course, Nick, when we're looking at individually, not teams, but who are the fastest riders individually, you look at that ITT time. Will Wagner third, Luke Noss first. So the fastest rider for BKB on the bike currently, not the fastest rider for SAE on the bike, as Black Key Bulls looks like they're beginning to set up a bike-to-bike exchange now. Coming out of turn number 4 is Will Wagner. He'll cross the start-finish line, completing lap number 173. He'll hand off to a teammate. Paul Lee will take things over on the bike for BKB. He'll enter turn 1 with around a 15 to 20 second advantage over second place SAE.
And now if you're SAE, you've got to push and push and push. But also if you're SAE, you've got to think about making an exchange of your own here to get some fresh legs out there. Because you think Black Key Bulls will probably just re-establish that advantage, which was at about 15 seconds before the exchange was made.
If you're Black Key Bulls, you could see any one of Wagner, Close, or Lee getting some extended laps here in the next couple. 173 laps in, we're nearing the 25 lap to go mark. Again, we'll update quickly the race for third and fourth respectively. Cutters and Delts within 0.03 of a second of each other. Again, they're a lap down though. It's BKB and SAE on that lead lap as SAE will make that change now. Hopping onto the bike for them is Lucas Lemmy. He finished 11th in ITTs. Lemmy, one of those guys, he's not just a sprinter, he's got great endurance as well. Ran cross country in high school. Right now, it's BKB's race to lose. 175 laps down for BKB as Paul Lee crosses the start-finish line. He's into the short chute between turns 1 and 2. 25 to go. 25 laps, Nick, separating BKB from potentially becoming back-to-back champions of the Little 500 as SAE currently running 19 seconds back of the leaders.
I was going to say at this stage, Black Key Bulls over half a lap ahead of the field, and I'm really impressed with how decidedly they pulled away. But it all goes back to that fake exchange where they bluffed it and SAE lost a whole bunch of time. They haven't been able to climb back up that hill and regain that momentum that they had when they were nip and tuck, just drafting off each other for the middle stages of this race. Expertly played by Black Key Bulls if this holds up, but still 23 to go, 22 to go this time by. A lot of time left, but if you're SAE, you got to start making up ground.
And it's one of those things when we were talking to BKB, Nick, during Little 500 Media Day, I asked a simple question. Maybe not so simple, there's some thought behind it. But I just asked them simply, what would a team that has won the Little 500, like BKB has, what would they know, and what advantage would that hold over a team that hasn't won the Little 500 before? And of course, SAE hasn't won for 62 years. It was 1963 last time SAE won the Little 500. aside from joking with me that BKB said the milk isn't real that they give you after the race, outside of that, they said it's the camaraderie, it's the little things, it's the strategy, it's the knowing when to exchange, when not to exchange, and in this case, when to fake an exchange that BKB has over so many other teams in this field because they did win a season ago. They did win a year ago in 2024. And right now it's Paul Lee crossing the start-finish line. Lap 178 in the books. He's keeping a really strong pace right now, Nick. 35.5 seconds on that last lap. He's got nearly a 20-second advantage over second place SAE.
And it looked like Lee held up 2 fingers the last time he crossed the start-finish line, motioning towards his pit box. Perhaps Black Key Bulls thinking about a final exchange here, maybe in a couple of laps' time. I'm not entirely sure. But if you're SAE, the wheels have got to be spinning in that pit box as you try to figure out what to do. Wow.
Nick, the lead is up to 30 seconds for Black Key Bulls. Paul Lee, a 35-second lap on that last one.
Incredible. I was going to say, I was looking, I had to do a double take because I saw SAE at the end of the front stretch as Black Key Bulls cross the start-finish line. Paul Lee putting in the work right now, nearly having lapped the entire field with 20 laps to go.
It certainly looks like it's BKB's race to lose. They're leading by 30 seconds over second place SAE. Lucas Lemmy on the bike for SAE. No sign of an exchange for them, although the bike is now out. Lemmy starting to cut into that deficit a little bit. Paul Lee, you can tell the energy starting to deplete.
I mean, he's done his job, though, nearly putting a lap on SAE. That is incredible.
Again, Cutters and Delts, they're running third and fourth respectively. They're actually almost gaining a little bit on SAE, but it's still pretty much a lap separating each of those top teams. BKB running lap 181. SAE running lap 180 right in front of them. So it's nearly a lap advantage for Paul Lee. He's still not going to make an exchange yet. He's got one more left in the tank. His teammates over there in that BKB pit right in front of turn 1, signaling he's got one more lap to go before his day is likely done. It'll be interesting to see, Nick, if BKB turns back to Will Wagner. Maybe it's Wiley close, but either way,
it looks like they are turning to Zach Villarreal, I think.
The number 4 rider, the rookie, looks like he's getting set to get out on the bike. The bike is out for BKB. They'll make an exchange, most likely the next time through. SAE continuing strong. Lucas Lemmy still on the bike for SAE, a chance to try and make up some ground here. In comes Lee. It's a clean exchange. Out goes Villarreal. He's into turn number 1. At this point for BKB, Nick, it's all about no mistakes.
Just keep it clean and you've got this one wrapped up. If you're SAE, I mean, you've got to give it everything from here on out. If you're Black Key Bulls, 17 laps to go and you've got a healthy advantage. It was as high as 31 seconds, the gap from Black Key Bulls to SAE in second.
It was about this time last year where BKB kind of separated themselves from the group as well. It's a 32-second advantage for BKB as SAE finishes lap number 182. But fresh legs on that bike, Zach Villarreal, 47th in ITTs, a new addition to BKB this year in his first race for Black Key Bulls. Of course, it was Will Wagner on the bike last year. He closed things out. He said he kind of blacked out once he crossed that start-finish line. He remembers finishing lap 200. He doesn't remember much after that. Wagner could potentially find himself back onto the bike. 17 laps to go. Here comes Villarreal. Across the start-finish line, we're through 184 here in Bloomington. And again, Nick, it goes back to that fake exchange. I had asked you about 15 to 20 laps prior who was going to make that first punch, throw that first punch, who was going to try and pull away first. The answer, a resounding BKB, a fake exchange that got themselves out to a lead that they have continued to exchange as SAE is going to make an exchange of their own. Check that. Not here. Lucas Lemmy blowing by the exchange, a little bit confused as Luke Noss standing over in his pit, but Lemmy going to have one more in him. Again, about a 30-second advantage for Black Key Bulls over SAE in this one. Looking to become the 5th back-to-back champion on the men's side of the Little 500. Lemmy now out of turn 4. He will make the exchange this time. Lemmy tags in Luke Noss, the sprinter on the bike for SAE. If there's a chance to try and make it up, that time is now as Villarreal comes in. Wiley Close will hop onto the bike for BKB. They exchange as well, mirroring SAE. Two of the faster riders for each respective team onto the bike now. Luke Noss finished first in ITTs this past year, but he's got some ground to make up over Wiley Close.
You can see Noss is absolutely flying out of turn 4. He knows that the time is now. Problem is, he's got over half a lap to make up. That's about, right now the gap stands at 28 seconds. I don't think that's right. As they'll cycle back through here, we'll see exactly how big the gap is. But it is over half a lap that Noss has to make up for SAE.
Of course, if there is a man in this field to do it, it is Luke Noss. Back-to-back years for Noss, finishing first in individual time trials. It's his 4th race. He's a senior looking to go out on top and trying to deliver SAE their 2nd win ever in their first in 62 years. They're running neck and neck with Cutters.
I think Cutters has gotten back on the lead lap.
It does. Our live tracker says Cutters and Delts have both gotten back onto the lead lap.
Yeah.
Cutters running just a couple of seconds behind SAE, with Delts a couple of seconds behind those two, but Cutters, Judah Thompson on the bike for them, is back into this one. But it's BKB's race to lose as it stands right now. Wiley Close on the bike for Black Key Bulls. 188 laps in the books as Close comes out of turn number 4 looking to complete lap 189. No sign of an exchange yet for BKB as Close crosses the start-finish line. A 38-second lap there for him. Again, a healthy advantage, but a shrinking advantage, I should say, over that next pack. It's about a half-track lead for Close and BKB. SAE, Cutters, Delt's not too far behind them in that secondary pack. It is Cutters on top of SAE right now. Cutters has come all the way back on the back and on the shoulders of Judah Thompson, who finished 2nd in ITTs. Delt's comfortably in 4th, 6 seconds behind them. The announcement now from Jeremy Gray that if you're not on the lead lap, which is only about 4 teams at this point, to clear that inside lane for those top 4 teams. Again, 10 laps to go. As it stands right now, it's BKB, Cutters, SAE, and Delts. But the important caveat, BKB around a 20 to 25 second advantage over 2nd place Cutters.
So really the best fight on the track is going to be for 2nd between SAE and Cutters here. I'm really impressed by Cutters having come all the way back from losing so much time in that crash earlier in this race. But man, Black Key Bulls beginning lap number 193. The gap that they have pulled has been incredible. They took a little bit. SAE gave them a little bit after that fake exchange, and Black Key Bulls just ran with it.
Again, a team that we talked to, they're so close, not only on the bike, but off the bike as well. As Cutters is going to look to make an exchange here. SAE will take 2nd place as it stands right now, back onto the bike for Cutters. In that race for 2nd is Jake Serov, as he's trying to chase down Luke Noss for SAE. But again, BKB, it's their race to lose. 192 laps down. Lap number 193 underway for BKB. It's a team that's so close. They qualified first this year. They had the pole. Looking to take home back-to-back Little 500 championships. Their 4th in team history. They won in 2014. They won in 2017. They won a year ago in 2024. This is their 18th race as an organization. A team that said they love the pressure. It's not pressure to them, it's respect to them. As Close is across the start-finish line again. 7 seconds to go a big wheel around with the arms. BKB can begin to feel it, as it looks like they'll have one more exchange in them before this race is over. It'll be the captain, Will Wagner, it looks like, to get back onto the bike for BKB. He was on it last year when they won in 2024. He's looking to make it 2 races and 2 wins, along with Wiley Close for BKB. As here comes Close. Will this be the lap they make the exchange? It will be. Close coming in, crosses the start-finish line. 5 laps to go for BKB. He tags in Wagner. It's a 5-lap sprint now for Will Wagner, and glory is his and BKB's for a 2nd consecutive year. BKB on lap 195. The race is theirs, barring any catastrophic mistakes. Cutters, SAE, Delts in that order, running 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 28 seconds behind the leader, BKB.
And Cutters just 4/10 in front of SAE. SAE has dropped to 3rd. This fight for 2nd might go all the way down to the wire.
The fight for 1st doesn't look like the same can be said. BKB, a 39.8 second lap there from Wagner. He was one of the couple of riders that really extended this lead for BKB. 4 laps to go as Black Key Bulls looks to make it 2 in a row. The 74th running of the men's Little 500 as Cutters makes an exchange. Back into the bike for them is Billy Gregory. It's a battle between them and SAE for 2nd and 3rd place respectively, but we're on lap number 197, and Will Wagner has himself a healthy, nearly full lap lead over 2nd place SAE. Black Key Bulls looking to make history here on the men's side in the 74th running of the men's Little 500. Again, Nick, not a ton of race experience, just the 2nd race for Wagner. He's looking to make it 2 wins in 2 years. Same with Wiley Close. Paul Lee, his 2nd race as well. And just a rookie is Zach Villarreal.
And only 2 to go. Black Key Bulls can taste it. And this really just the job that they have done by pulling away from the field. Nobody could hang with them in the later stages of this race. They did a great job not going too early, but taking advantage of that fake exchange and running with it. They've done a phenomenal job here this afternoon.
Lap number 198 of 200. The white flag is not being waved yet, but in the hands. The white flag is now out. Will Wagner crosses the start-finish line. 1 lap to go. BKB leads by 30 seconds. Wagner into turn 1 in the short chute, now entering turn number 2. He was on the bike for Black Key Bulls a year ago when BKB took home the 2024 title. Looking for their 4th in organization history, Black Key Bulls has run away with this. Will Wagner entering the back stretch. He's coming out of turn number 4. Will Wagner's gonna win it. The 5th different team ever to go back-to-back on the men's side. Black Key Bulls has won the 2025 Little 500. Now we take our turn for 2nd place. Cutters, SAE, and Delts running close. They're still on the back half of the straightaway right now. It's a race for 2nd after BKB came in 1st, entering the short chute. Now turn number 4, it's Cutters over SAE. Delts right behind, it's Cutters. Now it's SAE on the outside of the track. It's gonna be SAE in 2nd, Cutters 3rd. Delts will finish 4th, excuse me. What a sprint there, that back stretch from Luke Noss, the fastest rider in this race. He clinches 2nd for SAE, but Nick, the story of the race, BKB, their 4th win in organization history, and for a 2nd consecutive year, Will Wagner closes it out for Black Key Bulls. They go back-to-back, just the 5th team ever to do it. On the men's side, the celebration is on in pit number 1.
An unbelievable job by Black Key Bulls, just dusting the rest of the field. Fantastic stuff by BKB to run away with that one. And you could see the celebration starting as soon as they took the right flag. They knew. And what a fantastic race for Black Key Bulls. I figured they had a chance to go back-to-back. They won this one. They won last year by 3 seconds. They win this race by about 30 seconds, a little bit more decisively than last year when they beat Cutters. But Black Key Bulls going back-to-back this year. So we have 2 repeat winners, one on the women's side, one on the men's side, for just the second time ever at the Little 500. But
just
man,
the
that's got
second
us.
time ever, and the first since 2010 and 2011. It's been a while, Nick.
Yeah, and that's really going to sting for SAE because they were so close for so long, and then BKB with that fake exchange. They're going to be replaying that a ton between now and this time next year. But a thrilling, thrilling race and a fantastic win for Black Key Bulls, their 4th win ever. How much do you think not qualifying 2 years ago motivated them to get back and win not once but twice in 2 years after missing the race in 2023? What a story Black Key Bulls has become.
It's a group of winners led by their captain, Will Wagner. He was on that Black Key Bulls team that failed to qualify in 2023. Now this is his second Little 500 race and his second win in as many Little 500 races. Just running down the numbers for BKB in the final 4 riders that they have. Will Wagner, his second Little 5, his second win. Wiley Close, his second Little 5, his second win. Zach Villarreal, a rookie, his first race, his first win. It's a group of winners down there in pit number 1 celebrating in those neon yellow jerseys. Back-to-back champions, Black Key Bulls, and you mentioned it, Nick. The fake exchange is really what the difference was in this race. Around lap 170, around that mark, BKB went in for that fake exchange. It worked to perfection. It fooled SAE. SAE comes in second. Cutters in third. What a fantastic race won. And the strategy, all it took was one move. All it took was one move, but BKB on top of the Little 500 once again.
What a fantastic race. That was fun. And man, I didn't see an empty seat. Everybody was on their feet at the end. Traffic's going to be fun, but packed house. The weather was a little on the cool side, didn't play as much of a factor as I thought it would. Aside from the one wreck, it was clean. Just the one yellow in turn 1, but it's a good year to wear the yellow jersey. BKB wore it. Theta wore it yesterday. Yellow jersey, 2 of 2, winning Little 500 in 2025.
The drought for frats continues as well, Nick. Now the 3rd consecutive year that an independent team has won this race.
Yeah.
Of course, BKB did it this year. BKB did it last year as well, and Cutters in 2023. So the frat drought continues. It's now 3 consecutive races they haven't won.
But what a job for Cutters, too, coming all the way back through the field after that crash. They started quick, which we kind of figured they would, and then fighting all the way back after that wreck. They were really off the pace for a good chunk of the middle of the race, and then coming back up to finish 3rd. A great job by Cutters, a resilient job, and Delts as well in 4th, right with Cutters there at the end.
You look at some of the teams that finished behind BKB. BKB themselves, Wiley Close will be back. You got to think Zach Villarreal will be back. But what a way for Will Wagner and Paul Lee to go out there as seniors. They'll go out on top. You look at SAE, Luke Noss is a senior. But Lucas Lemmy, Retz Farna, Matthew Noss, the younger brother of Luke, he'll be back next year. All those 3 will be back next year for SAE. They'll definitely be a contender next year as well. Cutters, just 2 seniors, Billy Gregory and Karim Keskin are seniors. But Judah Thompson, one of the fastest riders we've ever seen on the men's side of the Little 500. He'll be back trying to make it a 4th race for Cutters, trying to win their 2nd. Nick, any final thoughts from the festivities today? It was a spectacular race, a spectacular atmosphere. It's been a spectacular weekend here in Bloomington.
Fake exchange, the name of the game. That'll be something that SAE thinks about for a long time. Felt like this was the year they had the best shot to do it, and they were in it for a good chunk of this race but could not get it done. Hats off to Black Key Bulls. The way they pulled away from the field was incredible. You thought maybe SAE would have a chance to claw back in. They just never did. Black Key Bulls took the little advantage they got. They ran away with it, and they've earned their 2nd consecutive win and their 4th win all time in the men's Little 500. Same time next year?
Same time next year, Nick. I think we can bank on that. Again, Black Key Bulls, their 4th Little 500 crown, their 2nd in as many years. They become just the 5th different team on the men's side to go back-to-back and win the Little 500. The 74th running of the men's Little 500 has come and gone, 200 laps, and it's Black Key Bulls that stands alone at the top of the podium for a 2nd consecutive year. It's been a fantastic week in Bloomington. It's going to be a fantastic weekend, still far from over here in Bloomington, the festivities for Little 500 weekend. For my partner, Nick Rodecap, and our wonderful Gavin Worrell holding things down for us in the studio, I'm Zach Browning saying so long from the 74th running of the men's Little 500.